All right. Thank you all so much for joining us for our September STC Florida chapter meeting on Tech Comm tools. I'm so glad you're all here. And without further ado, I'm just going to jump right into our slides. So we just did our networking from 6:30 to 7, and now we're going to go over some updates, and then we'll have our presentations and leave time for Q&A. So hopefully you guys will have some questions for us. If not, I know Julia has some prepared. So welcome, announcements, and then we'll get into those tips and tricks and time for Q&A afterwards. So welcome specifically from the Florida chapter. I think everyone here knows, but for the recording, we are the Florida chapter of the Society for Technical Communication. That does not mean that we only welcome Floridians. We are always glad to have people join our meetings from anywhere in the country. Everything we do is now virtual and available on Zoom. So we have monthly chapter meetings. This month, we actually have a bonus meeting that will be next week that we'll mention on an upcoming slide. But we're here for student mentoring, for leadership development, and just here to spread the good word of technical communication wherever we go, and best practices, and to help each other out along the way. Also, I know I'm horribly biased because I've been in STC for, I think, a decade now, but I think we're pretty great people and I like hanging out with everybody. So for those who aren't a member of our community, we'd be happy to welcome you. You're always welcome to reach out with questions. You can email president@stcflorida.org to reach me, or any of our other contact information is on our website. So some quick announcements. I want to make sure to include it here that there is a job opportunity with Lockheed Martin. Alex, can I put you on the spot to speak to it? If you don't mind.
Sure. So as you can see there, it's a contract to perm position. You would be working directly with me. So it would be partially on site, and you would be need to be able to get a clearance up to the special access program level. So if you are interested, let me know, and email me your resume at alex.garcia@lmco.com.
And I'm putting that information in the chat as well.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you for sharing the opportunity, Alex.
Absolutely.
The one bit of sadness in me not having done government work and not currently planning to is that you and I haven't worked together beyond STC. Maybe the stars will align at one point, but
sometime.
it's a great opportunity. There's a quick note from our chapter that we are looking for volunteers generally, but also specifically for employment chair and recognition chair. For employment chair, that's someone who will help send out job opportunities, talk to recruiters about the value of our work. We're working on kind of revamping that process for communicating jobs to our members. So we're looking for anyone who has a passion for, well, I was going to say being employed, but I think we all have that. So in helping others find gainful employment. The other piece is our recognition. So that's our chapters awards, separate from the STC level awards. So when we do a recognition of our members, our active membership program is run by WC, but there are other awards we do as well. So if you have a passion for recognition, I can't ask Lori. She's the best in the business, but her plate is full. So if you are interested in that, please do reach out. The last thing I wanted to mention, and I will put the link in the chat, is an event coming up, an online seminar from STC. That's the overall international organization. That's a 2-day online seminar coming up in October, where they're going to be talking about planning your career post-pandemic, because so much of how we work for many people has changed in the past few years. So if you click the link I put in the chat, and that's also linked in the slides, you can see a bit about the events that'll be coming up for that. So just want to make sure you were all aware that that is coming up and is fully remote, which I think makes sense given how our work has changed. So the other thing I want to make sure to go over is our upcoming events. And by doing that, I'm handing it off to Julia, who is our VP and program planner.
Hey guys. So next Thursday, we're doing the Madcap Flare tips and tricks with Scott Deloach, who, fun fact, wrote the book on Madcap Flare. We'd love to see you there. Hope you can join us. On October 20th, we will be doing a panel on workplace respect and resolving conflict. November 20th, we're going to be doing a introverted leadership panel. Out of curiosity, in the chat or on screen, raise your hand if you're an introvert. can't see everybody's video, but I assume from what I did see, that's most of us.
Amanda was shaking her head no, but that's okay. We need non-introverts as well.
You help us get to a place of comfort so we can come out of our shell a little bit.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that. We will, if I remember correctly, have a extrovert on our panel. If you would like to join, please do. And of course, our December holiday social is on December 15th. There's usually a lot of fun to be had there, so join if you're able.
All right. Thank you, Julia. So without further ado, we have tonight's presenters. There's Amanda Patterson. You may, normally we would like clap, but we'll wave or, whatever the Zoom equivalent you would like to do. Alex Garcia and myself. And I think our plan was basically just to jump right in. Amanda, are you ready for screen sharing?
Sure. Again, I'm going to have the same issues with screen sharing that everybody does, that Zoom is going to move all my windows about. So
Yes. So if you would like a moment to take your time, and I'm going to spotlight your video so everyone will see you.
Okay. Okay. And does everybody see the video, or is that hidden?
We should not see the video unless you've gone into Zoom and selected to allow Zoom to show itself, which is in a very obscure menu I found once.
Okay, then I haven't done that. So what I wanted to kind of show folks is just some tips and tricks about using InDesign. Most of my interest lies in structured authoring and really conversion from traditional unstructured authoring in preparation for structured authoring and docs as code that would be used for machine learning, artificial intelligence, and all of that kind of fun stuff. I'm going to preface this with saying InDesign is not the best tool for true structured authoring. You can make it happen if this is the tool that you have, but Adobe's true structured authoring tool, they've got two of them now. The first one is FrameMaker, which is a tried and true. A lot of folks love that program. I'm gonna be honest, I've never used it. And then they have recently released AM Guides, used to be XML documentation solution, and that sits on top of Adobe Experience Manager, which manages all of the content fragments and stuff like that. So like styles in Word, InDesign has paragraph styles that will set you up for success if you're using them consistently to make that transition to XML. So what I have here is a document. It's one of our templates, so there's no actual content in this, hence a lot of blank space on the pages. Use your imagination, fill in as you see fit. But here's obviously one of our, sort of introduction pages. We have some price grids. We'll have some size standards, and then we'll have some product specification pages. And what you'll see is some pretty consistent text styles, but also a lot of variation. So things like different heading levels, bullets, some things get italicized, some things get bolded, and there's just kind of a bunch of stuff going on here. The key to moving this content into an XML format or some sort of structured authoring format is to make sure that all of these are as consistent as possible. And the beautiful thing about InDesign is that you can set up paragraph styles for whatever you want this text to look like. And then obviously by selecting the correct paragraph style, in this case, applications here, and I can try to zoom in a little bit, is a section title, whereas Ultra Glide 1 measuring guidelines is a subsection. And then we have some sort of third level headings down here, body text, bullet, checklist, and the member of my team that put this together did a really nice job of actually writing these things out for our new writers to know what to actually fill in the content. The beautiful thing about paragraph styles, if I open one of these, so let's pick this third one. This level 3 heading is based on the level 1 heading of section subhead. So this tertiary heading is based on the same character settings and paragraph styles that we set up for applications. And the beauty of this is that if I change the top level heading, so if I go up here to section title and I change, oh, let's change the color, do some obnoxious blue, and I can preview it, and all of the headings that are based on that style will change along with it. Also a double-edged sword that if you mess this up, yes, you will have to redo all of the paragraph styles. But if you start with the base style, you only have to do it once. This will also obviously change it through the entire document. It makes rebranding a little easier in the sense that you don't have to find every heading or every character style in your document to make that change. You would just have to go through you'd go through one document, make the changes that are required, and then you can load those paragraph styles into your other documents and get the changes to happen automatically. And that's a pretty simple process of going in, loading your paragraph styles, choosing the document you want to load those styles from, and then it'll ask to import it. Maybe. There you go. And so you can select all of them or one or two of them if you know you have one that's maybe not quite right. It got corrupted somewhere along the lines, and just hit OK, which I don't want to do in this example because it'll really mess up this document. But you can easily change the look and feel of your document by using these styles. Questions there? Cool. My sort of last two well, I shouldn't say that. To get to XML, you can export your document in many different forms, including XML. You can also export it as HTML if that's the target that you're going to, with just a click of a button. And then where is, I'll just open this in oops, it's not. Yeah. This is one of the problems, is that this document is not structured well, but what you would get is, if you're done this right, is the XML. We have been struggling with exporting our XML and our unstructured content in XML for obvious reasons. So that's why this is not the cleanest way to do it. The other feature that you have are the tags. And my window is, my workspace changed. Where'd my tags go?
Joys of doing it live, right?
Yeah,
Things that move
yeah.
mysteriously.
They move mysteriously, and I will be totally honest, even on the recording of my InDesign guru on my team was out today, and I sort of stepped in slightly unexpectedly. I am not an InDesign expert. Anyway, somewhere in InDesign there are tags that you can add to specific stories to get your root menu, an installation tag and stuff like that of how you want to do it. I find it very clunky and cumbersome, and in order to make it work, your stories have to be very, very small, almost bite-sized chunks. So like this would be maybe this would be a story, this would be a story, and then however many of those you have on each page, and you would label and tag them. I found it incredibly difficult to try and re-tag content that has already been authored in InDesign to make that step. But if you start with a blank page and you know you're going to be going into XML and into structured authoring, you can do that in InDesign. My other two pieces of advice are be really consistent in using the paragraph styles, because they will save you time and effort down the line. And that way, at least whatever you call that paragraph style, it should be some sort of functional title, like ours are, spec chart title or section title. It tells you what it is, so that way you can apply it consistently again if you're writing new content. You should not be in InDesign and manually changing colors and font sizes and stuff like that. If you are, and especially if you have moved to a new job or a new team or something like that, new company, and they're using InDesign, I would seriously trust the document or open a currently released document to see how the rest of the team is using the paragraph styles. But I have found it incredibly disruptive where very well-intentioned contractors have come in and messed up documents because their InDesign teacher in college told them these are the rules. So if you have taken InDesign courses in college, by all means, you're probably far ahead of me in knowing what the software can do as a tool, but you really want to take some of that with a grain of salt and really understand the foundational skills that you learned, and not necessarily like the rules your instructor told you, because those rules might be different at each company. I would say always ask questions of the team that you're working on to see how they're using InDesign. And one of the really great things about Adobe products in general is all of their software comes with some really phenomenal tutorials online. So you can get a long way in learning a software just by going to YouTube or going, searching for Adobe tutorials to really get a good grip and a good in-depth understanding of the tool, even if you can't use it right away. But definitely helpful if you're first starting out and trying to get up to speed on a new tool. And that's all I got.
All right. Thanks, Amanda. I have to be honest, I've never actually seen, I've seen screenshots of InDesign, but I've never actually seen the application working before. So I was excited to see how does it work? So thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. It does function kind of like, it's almost what Word wants to be. It does lay out much better than Word, so you can much easier, proof that I'm not great at this. You can move these better. You can anchor your images to text so that if you move the text, the image goes with it. You can stick it in here and easily move the text around, which is great fun. It is primarily a layout program, where Word is a true word processing program, but I have grown to like InDesign. our struggle in moving to structured authoring is that we just have documents that are basically as old as I am and have lived in InDesign for that long. So there's just years of fixing, editing, adjusting, and things like that, that the paragraph styles and the character styles have been blown way out of proportion. So we have documents with like 50 to 60 character styles based for like trademarks and registrations based on the size of the font, and then, you know, paragraph styles that have been written over and added to, and just kind of nonsense. It is a little, looking at the chat, a little bit between Word and PowerPoint. I think that's a good approach to it. It's, you know, it also just doesn't edit graphics or anything. You want to get into Illustrator if you're doing that. But it's a really good layout tool. Anybody doing catalog layout or one-off newsletters, its modularity is really useful.
Have you used a publisher? I've used that a little bit and have overall not enjoyed it. So that's one of the reasons I was excited to see this for layout.
Yeah, man, it's been a minute since I've used Publisher, but yeah, I almost forgot about that.
It still
Yeah.
exists.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. Glad to see it's alive and well.
I think that was Microsoft's sort of attempt at InDesign, right? A little bit.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest, I haven't used Publisher probably in 20 years at this point. So I don't
Party of imitations, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know like how comparable these two things are now, because Publisher in 2000 is an unfair comparison.
I don't think it has all the functionality. Oh, sorry. Was that Michael?
Yeah, I've used Publisher, their new version of Publisher recently. It hasn't gotten better with age.
Oh, I'm sorry, Microsoft. You got me through college. I can't ask for any more.
All right. Well, I think we're going to do questions later. I know I sort of butted in. So I think if you're set, Amanda, I'll hand it off to Alex to do Arbortext.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right, let me figure out the screen share thing.
Hopefully it's going to cooperate nicely. And your video is not on, just as a heads up.
Yeah, I need to turn that on. Let me know. Okay, can you see me and can you see my screen?
I don't see your screen yet. It says Alex has started screen sharing, but I don't see a screen. Does anyone else?
No, I think you have to select the screen you want to share.
It might be the prompt could have disappeared onto a second monitor or behind a window. There we go.
There it is.
You're seeing it now?
Yes.
Okay. Zoom quit unexpectedly, so.
Well, we can see at the moment.
But we lost Alex.
Oh,
there he is.
Sorry, Alex. It looks like Zoom is presenting some challenges.
Yep, on my back. I kept on saying that Zoom quit unexpectedly.
If you have anything on your system you can close, it could be a memory issue, because I know
Okay.
Zoom is a resource hog, especially if you're screen sharing. So that could be your problem.
Okay, let me try that again.
Sometimes I'm like, gotta close out Chrome. It's just too much.
I have to do that all the time. If I'm going into a Zoom meeting, just close all Chrome tabs.
Okay,
You see your screen?
now you can see my screen, okay. And you can see me?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a presentation on PTC Arbortext 7.1. And specifically today, we're gonna focus on developing DoD manuals using Arbortext. So I'm Alex Garcia. I'm a senior technical writer at Lockheed Martin Missiles and Fire Control in Orlando. Pronouns are he and L. You can reach me at alexrgarcia.stc@gmail.com. So let's go ahead and get started. So the agenda today, we're gonna give you a little bit of background of what Arbortext is, the standards for the DoD manuals and the style sheets behind it. And then we'll go through an exercise of actually putting together a depot manual using Arbortext, using a style sheet for Mill Standard 4051-2. So what is Arbortext? It's an XML authoring software that provides tools to create structured content, reusable modules in XML. You can also, if your company is a manufacturing company with engineering drawings, usually if you have Arbortext, you'll have PTC Windchill as your basically your drawing repository. And if you do, you can basically bring in your drawings from Windchill all the way into your technical publications, which is something that that Lockheed Martin is working on right now. Kind of a soup to nuts, beginning to end process for tech pubs. You can. It also supports data and S1000D content, structured content at the top level, and in this case, mostly used for Department of Defense technical publications. Here you see the overall layout of the windows and the menus, and over here on the side, once we send out the links, you can learn all about Arbortext. Has a little bit of a document there. So about the DoD standards and style sheets. So for the DoD publications, contractors, which include Lockheed Martin and other companies, they get all of their style sheets from the government because the government needs all of their manuals to look the same no matter what type of product is being fielded. And so they're closely curated and provided to contractors by a division called the U.S. Army Aviation and Missile Command, which is AMCOM, the Logistics Center, which is in Huntsville, Alabama. And they are in charge of all the style sheets for these 4 types of mill standards, Mill Standard 4051-1 and 2. That's for the Army mostly. There's Mill PRF 6300-02, which is for maintenance work orders, MWOs. Mill PRF 63033, which are for demilitarization, my favorite word, procedures, which is at the end of a product's life. And then Mill Standard 38784 for the Air Force, Marines, and Navy. If you are looking to get into the DoD environment, I would definitely read up on both Mill Standard 4051 and Mill Standard 38784. So you can get, hit the ground running with both of those standards when you get into your new environment. So the relevant style sheets to create these XML documents can be downloaded from ALC Pub's service division. They have a website with all of their templates available to download. So actually creating a Mill Standard 4051-2 manual And I will note for the purposes of this presentation, MIL standard 4051-2 Rev C in this case carries distribution statement A. None of the data in the following slides is export controlled or proprietary. And distribution statement A reads approved for public release. Distribution is unlimited. So basically this is a document that is publicly available on the internet. It's been released by the government. For this exercise, we will look at developing an Army Depot Maintenance Work Requirement, or DEMWAR, in XML using Arbortext 7.1. I know I'm throwing out a lot of acronyms so far, but that is the DoD environment in a nutshell. So the first thing you do when authoring a manual within the Arbortext environment, you need to download your style sheets from the ALC Pubs repository, including your FOS, your FOSSI, that is all the definitions of all the tags, and then your XLSFO style sheets. That's how to take those tags and make them into an actual document from XML to PDF. And then the brain for both of those documents, both of those style sheets, is the document type definition DTD file. So there's a DTD that defines pretty much every single tag that you will be using. And if you're using try to use a tag that is not in the DTD, Arbortext will not let you. So it's all about staying in context. So when all of these style sheets, they define the tags that are available, and you need to place them in the context that the style sheet is expecting. So you attach your DTD and style sheets to your new publication in Arbortext and create your context. We're going to be using the word context a lot. It's the most important, pretty much the most important part of creating the document is to stay in context. So here you've attached your FOSSI within the select style sheet in the tools menu. You select that, you add your association. So then you go to MIL standard 4051-2. And for our purposes, we're going to create a DEMWAR, which is, again, a depot maintenance work requirement. And you'll find that in table 7 of Appendix A. You go to that table, you will see the tags required in this column with an R are all the tags that are required to stay in context. And you have to basically tag them in order. And that's what the DTD is looking for. That's what the FOSSI is going to respect. And shaded fields are as required. So depending on what type of product you are documenting, you might come across some different types of maintenance chapters and procedures that you have to put in there. So everything shaded is as required and optional, but everything that has an R must appear in the exact order that is shown. So it said in the context of the DEMWAR chapters, there's chapter files that you need to create. There's the paper.front XML, that's the front matter. And then there's some funny names that they give them, but they're easy to remember. They're the GIM, or general information, the TIM, which is troubleshooting, the MIM, which is maintenance, PIM, which is parts, which is your RIPSTL and IPB, SIM, which is supporting information, all your consumables and tools that are required, and then your rear matter. And again, the DTD is going to be looking for that exact order to lay out your manual. So these are the parent tags, XML, And then all of the children tags are going to be underneath within those chapters. And again, you can see how structured this is because of the seriousness of the products that we're creating and maintaining. Everything has to be that structured for safety. Everything's all about safety. So you create a separate XML file for each chapter, and underneath those, you go in and you create several XML files using a numbering scheme that is also found in the MIL standard, where all of the GIM files have a G, TIM files start with T, MIM files start with M, PIM files, for some reason, start with R, which is explained in detail in the MIL standard for some reason. SIM files start with S, and then the rear matter and the front matter are all encompassed in their own XML. And you can have unlimited number of children files, and the easiest way to organize yourself is to make sure that each file corresponds to a work package, for example. So it's all about your kind of learning content management at the same time. So the first thing you do once you've created all your files outside of XML, so you have basically the structure within your repository. As with any type of HTML or XML, you have to declare all of these files within your system. So the way you do that in Arbortext, you go to the Entities menu, and you have to, we're going to start with the files. We're going to declare the files and tell, so you're building your repository. In this case, it's going to be sample demoir 2.xml. Within that file, you're going to declare your GIM, all your chapter files, your GIM, your MIM, PIM, SIM, and then all of the children files that you also created need to be declared in these entities. So they need to be listed in here. The way you do that, go to your Entities menu, File, and then New. Navigate to wherever you put those files, and then populate all of them. Make sure that they have a row for all of the entities here. Same thing you're going to do for your graphics as you're going through your documentation. You have to, as with HTML or XML, you have to declare your graphic entities. And again, it's you have to declare all of them, make sure they all have a row. And this is not just at the beginning. You can declare these at any time as you're going through your documentation. These are all sample, obviously, for this purpose. I did leave some practical on ones like chemical burn and explosions. So once you've declared both your graphics and your files, now you have to insert your graphics and your files in the order that your DTD is expecting. So we're going to start by inserting our GIM. So you're going to build that structure that the DTD is expecting with the MIL standard open on your other screen. So you're making sure that you're structuring the content correctly. So you go in and you insert one by one. And what does it look like through the magic of Hollywood? You have your paper manual is there. So this is the map view of XML. So you can either, of Arbortext, you can see your XML in cascading structure here where you can plus or minus, and you can see the hierarchy, how it builds. So all of this is encompassed in the production bucket. You have your paper manual, XML. You have a file entity that it brought in, and then underneath that, it has all of the tags that the DTD is expecting. For example, paper.front, front cover, warning summary, your list of effective work packages and pages, all down to how to use your manual. And you'll see the GIM has the G files, the G00 whatever, and then your TIM, same thing, follows that structure, followed by your MIM. Here's your PIM with the very structured, all the parts, the repair parts and special tools lists, all your special tools, NSN index, part numbers index, then your supplementary information, then your rear matter if you have an index, all depending on your customer, if they're expecting an index, if they're expecting a glossary, things like that can be put into the rear matter. And again, for organization's sake, each child XML file contains a work package. Now, if you want to do even smaller chunks, which is something that, for example, I've heard Bethany talk about in Madcap Flare, where you can, bring in smaller and smaller chunks of information, so you can only author it once and change it once and it goes everywhere else. You can definitely do that. You can get as small as you want with your XML files. There's also an ability to declare text entities, where those are then saved within the XML, and then you just write out the entity whenever you're wanting to use it. So it does have that ability. So this is the map view once again, where if you want to look through your hierarchy. Now let's take a look at through basically the what you see is what you get view. So this is the WYSIWYG style of view within Arbortext. You do still see your tags. I always like to turn on the tags as much as possible, so I know that I'm tagging correctly. You can turn them off, but again, you see the structure here, the production bucket, and then you have your paper front. And each of these looks like filing cabinets. So your GIM contains 3 repositories, and you can cascade and open those as much as possible, or you can close them to be able to see your hierarchy. So each of these dotted lines shows a division of the chapters, but you're still within the paper manual tag, within the production tag. And so you see how it's a all encompassed, contained document, where you can either author the smaller parts within the big document open, or you can go to the smaller files and open them up, edit them, and then when you open up the big one, it'll all be up there. So everything that you saved. So it'll give you a chance to digest all of this. There's a lot on the screen.
Yeah, Alex, I kind of feel like you're showing us how to like climb Mount Everest.
Mhm.
So and now we're at the summit.
Yep,
It's truly
absolutely.
impressive. I'm in awe.
So authoring with context. So we've been talking a lot of context, right? So what does that mean? So the DTD has the brain, right? It has all the definitions. It has all the order that everything needs to appear in. So the DTD will not, if you are in context, if you have all your rules on, it will not let you delete anything if it's going to be out of context. it won't let you add anything if it's going to be out of context. So when you press enter and your context rules are on, you only get the allowed tags. So it definitely, it goes through your DTD and your style sheet and says at the cursor, what is allowed right now? And I'm only going to show you these 25 tags here. Now, when something is wrong and context rules are off, you have hundreds and hundreds of tags that are available because it doesn't know exactly where you are, or it lost context, right? So you want to make sure that you're in context. You want to make sure that you're checking your completeness a lot, because then you can start and diagnose exactly where something might have gone wrong. And you can see I pasted here a command where it did not let me cut something because definitions in this entity would be out of context if you remove that. So it knows exactly what to keep and what not to keep. So once you've authored everything, all of your text and graphics is where you need it to be. Again, you go to your tools menu, you check your completeness, and you're making sure that all of your context rules are validated. And here it goes through completeness errors and completeness checks, saying there, for example, the warning tag is unexpected end tag. You might be missing some content in there. So you want to go through and clear all of those out as much as possible. Now there's some back and forth that you can have with the government, with the customer, saying this should not be this way in the style sheet, and maybe they can make some changes. But at the end of the day, you need to submit your document without as few completeness errors as you can. When all the completeness errors are cleared and the document is in context, it's time to publish. So then you go to file, publish, PDF file, and yes, these for the purposes of this, it is a page turn PDF manual. There are some programs that are using fully electronic manuals on iPads, for example. Those are called IEDMs, electronic type of manuals, but this is publishing to a PDF file using your style sheet. So then you make sure that you're pointing to the right XSL, because that's going to take all of the definitions within your DTD and turn it into a published document. You click OK, and you have your PDF manual. So, and I did remove some of the distribution statements here, since this is a distribution A type of presentation. So I know that was a lot, and I tried to condense it as much as possible. But if you do have any questions, let me know. My email is there. So, and later on in this presentation, you can also let me know if you have any questions.
All right. Thanks, Alex.
Absolutely.
I've learned a lot. I feel like I've heard bits and pieces of this, and it sort of put it together in my head entirely wrong as to how it worked. So thank you for showing us what actually happens.
Yep.
All right. We will come back for questions. And also Amanda's offered to do a little bit of a further tutorial. But before that, I get to talk to you guys about Snagit. For those who don't know me or have not been on enough calls with me, my love of Snagit is extremely well documented and profound. So apologies. I'm a bit of like a fangirl for the product. So that does not mean it's perfect, but it does mean I'm going to say lots of nice things about it. So can you guys see my screen with some slides at the moment? Okay, great. I put together slides. I've got a couple introductory things, and then I'm just going to bravely follow Amanda's lead and just show you things in the application. It all worked in when I was putting together the slides, so it should all be good. But for my Snagit tips and tricks, what is Snagit? In case you have not spoken to me, because I think even people who are not working in technology, who are just family members and friends, have heard me talk about Snagit. It's basically a screen capture and recording tool. In a sense, it's a very simple thing. It's not Photoshop, it's not Illustrator, it's not designed to be this, incredibly complex, robust image, creation and manipulation tool. It's supposed to take your screen captures and let you make them look nice. Basically, is my summary. It could be in any different formats, so videos, GIFs. I say GIFs, or sometimes I say GIFs. I haven't settled on it. I know they're both technically sort of correct and also both sort of wrong. So bear with me when I switch between the two. And it's just really useful for if you take a lot of screen captures for your documentation, or for me, when I'm just trying to email people about things where they're like, I can't find something, or where is that? I'm like, don't worry, I will take a screen capture and Snagit, which I will quickly mark up and send to you because it's quicker than writing out all the steps sometimes. So the options are limitless, but also are mostly taking screen captures and videos and sending them to people or putting them into a different program to use them, at least in my experience. I also see Amanda says she loves Snagit in all caps, so I'm not alone in being a random, unsponsored product evangelist for Snagit. All right, so just a quick thing, why I love it. I know I probably said these things before to a lot of you, but it's easy to learn. And sorry, that's not a jab at Alex's presentation at all. They are entirely different things. He was teaching you how to summit Mount Everest, and I'm teaching you how to I don't know, go check your mail. It's just a thing you need to do. It's something you're going to do regularly. It's important, but it's not necessarily terribly complex. You can learn it pretty quickly. It's useful. I have a personal license in addition to the one I use for work. I bought for myself. I like to use it for just, capturing information, reminding myself of things, documenting, and it's just handy to have, handy to have on hand. I didn't think that went through before I started that sentence. It's reliable. I'm sure there are people that have issues with the tool, as with any tool, but I said one of the reasons I love Snagit is it has never betrayed me as pretty much a lifelong Microsoft Word user who has seen every sort of gremlin, weird bug, inexplicable happening. My love of Madcat Flare is also well documented, but that is a tool that can do interesting things and surprise you. Snagit just does what it's supposed to for me. I'm happy. It's happy. We both move on with our lives after interacting. And the last thing, the reason why I wanted to have this here, so many of the tools that are used in TechComm are inaccessible price-wise to the average person outside of the workplace. The expense to pay for a license for many, many, many different software applications is in the hundreds or thousands of dollars. Snagit, I believe they recently increased their prices for the new 2022 version. But regularly they've put licenses on sale for $25. And you just have a license. It's not a subscription. That's not a stab at Adobe, but maybe a little bit, where you're having to lock in to a commitment in order to have your application. You have your Snagit license, you keep it. It also comes with an upgrade to the next year's version. So I'm going to try to just use one version. I actually have 3 versions on my computer right now. So I have 2021 and 2022 because I did upgrade. And overall, I just think it's a great piece for people to learn. And I'm looking forward to showing you guys a few things. I certainly will not say this is exhaustive, and there are probably many other things, but I did make slides with steps. So I have written everything out. I did my best to try to keep them sort of version agnostic to the most recent versions of Snagit. There have been some changes between the most recent versions, but overall, they're basically the same. So if you'll give me a minute, I'm going to brave Zoom and try to switch to screen sharing my other screen so that you guys can see what I'm doing. And feel free to tell me that I'm overboard on my love of Snagit whenever necessary. All right, Are you guys seeing like a blue void of a desktop? Because I decided to go with the most generic Windows background, so you wouldn't be looking at a picture of my dog for the entire presentation. Not that that would necessarily delight you, but I would find it distracting. So I'm just gonna, 1 second while I move my Zoom window around so I can still see you guys. All right. So one of the first things I like to bring up about Snagit, I say Snagit like it's one thing, but it's really actually two different applications together. There's Snagit and then there's the Snagit editor. So if I open Snagit 2022, give me one moment while it thinks and opens. I know I mentioned that Zoom resource sharing. All right, so this might be underwhelming after what you just saw for Alex's presentation and for Amanda's. It's Snagit. It's just this simple little tool right here. It has a few different options. I'll walk you through a couple of the obvious stuff before we go into like some of my particular tips and tricks, but this is what you use for doing your screen captures. You probably could figure out a lot of it. When you click the capture button, it does a capture. I think their UI is pretty simple and easy to follow. The other piece we're going to be looking at is the Snagit editor. Sorry, I'm typing in because I think I had pinned the wrong version and I want to make sure I'm grabbing the 2022. Of course, it decided not to cooperate with me. There it is. So this is the other piece where you could take screen captures in Snagit and then you can edit them. Like I said before, it's not, you know, it's not a really, really like robust image creation software. Well, I won't say you're not going to create art. Maybe you will create art in your Snagit editor. I don't. I mostly just mark up screenshots, but this is the other piece of the software. So without further ado, I'm going to go back to the editor or go back out of the editor and then show you one more thing. The other secret hidden Snagit. So this is when you open the tool. They also give you the option to have a little tiny widget. Can you guys see it? I want to make sure it opened. This is one of my favorite things to forget exists until it pops up. So it basically hides on your screen and occasionally I forget it's there. And then it just pops up and surprises me. And I go, oh, it's basically a tiny version of Snagit that you can put anywhere on your screen and just quietly hides until you hover over it and then it will pop up and you can click the red button and take a screen capture. So when you click to take a screen capture, I just want to make sure it is showing on my screen. Can you guys see me dragging? Okay, perfect. Mine's set to region by default, which basically means when you click to take a screen capture in Snagit, it says, okay, tell me what you want in the screen capture. And you drag that little cursor across, and that is what get captured in your screen capture. It's maybe a little underwhelming at this point, but that is what I use it for probably, I don't know, 10 or 15 times a day. And each time I'm delighted when it does that exact thing and then opens it in Snagit editor. So one of the things I wanted to show that varies by default based on the version, but is to use the copy to clipboard. So when you're in Snagit and you've got these different options all in one, image, video, you can actually tell Snagit to copy anything you capture to your clipboard. This is really helpful if you're not planning to do any editing and you're like, I've got a screen capture and I like need to throw it into a chat to show something to somebody or paste it directly into an email and you don't want to do any editing to it. You just want to grab it immediately. It's on your clipboard and you can directly paste it into whatever application you want. I pretty much leave that on all the time. I always like to be able to go immediately from my screen capture to wherever I'm putting it, unless I'm doing some markup. The other thing I wanted to show you guys is how to capture a long screen. So if you're looking in Snagit, it's got a few different options here under selection. So region, that's what I mentioned before. Select part of your screen. That's what you're going to capture in there. For a window, it will snap to a window. So if you don't want to have to drag to make sure you're getting all the specific contours of what you're going to capture, you can select that. Full screen just grabs your whole screen. Toolbars, sneaky hidden Snagit, the whole deal will be in there. The other pieces are the scrolling window and the panoramic. The scrolling window, it will select an entire scrolling screen. I will say occasionally there are some screens that put up a fuss in certain applications, but generally I found this works really well. So I was going to go to our chapter page and do a scrolling window. So you just select what you want, click capture. And then here, if you see I go over my screen, it gives me these fun little arrows. So you can scroll horizontally, down, or my favorite, down and to the right. I'm just going to try to go down, but of course Zoom is in the way. So let me move Zoom in just a second. All right, well, so I'm sorry, Zoom is stopping me from capturing my scrolling screen. The other thing you can do to capture a scrolling window is to do a panoramic. So one moment while I get the Zoom toolbar over on my other screen. And that lets you select a screen. You can click start, and then you can scroll the screen yourself. So you can see where it's sort of making a smaller and smaller little thumbnail as I'm scrolling through our chapter webpage. If I click stop, it's going to put that all together into one very long screen capture. I don't know that you want a screen capture this long in your documentation. As you can see, it has to be tiny. But I don't know if you ever had the problem otherwise where you're trying to capture a screen and then you're like, do I just try to stitch together two different screenshots or something like that? I find this is really useful. I probably wouldn't necessarily do a screen this long, but if you wanted it for record, it's all there and you can zoom in and see the entire thing. The other thing you can do is in the editor is combine images. So I know I mentioned don't have to combine images, capture the whole screen, but sometimes you do need to combine things. So if you have an image open in Snagit Editor, you can literally just grab another image and drag it here and it'll plop it onto your canvas, which is what this here is basically just letting you combine images. You can move them around. You'll see I'm doing some zooming in and out. Of course, anything here that has our beautiful checkerboard, that's currently going to be transparent if you save it. But this would allow you to combine as many images as you want just to make something simple. There's a lot of really great out-of-the-box features on resizing images. Most of those are really easy to find in their online help, so I'm trying to focus on things that I think might be steps you could miss if you haven't used it before. But I certainly don't want you to think that there's other useful things that I'm not covering. I'm trying to cover some of the more obscure cases for me. So let's undo that. I'm just doing Control-Z. Get back to our beautiful long scrolling screenshot. All right, so I don't know if anyone else has ever experienced something where someone says, hey, there's something correct in the documentation, or here's some text I want to send you. Instead of sending you the text, they send you an image of the text. Maybe this has only happened to me, but I doubt it. So I'm a big fan of Snagit's feature that lets you just grab text out of images. They have I forget exactly what the acronym is for it. I'll have to look it up, but it does some simple recognition and pulls text out. So if you wanted to grab the text from all of an image, you can just right click and choose grab text. It's not going to understand the formatting. So really what you're just getting is the text from the screen. But hopefully this is going to work nicely since I picked a random screen to show you guys. But it should just pull out at least the text. I find for me that's really helpful instead of having to retype everything. So you'll see it struggled with some of the specific formatting. But once you get down to the actual text, it's pretty good, especially for paragraph text. So I use this a lot. As much as I would like to train everyone to send me text if they want something, this is useful for me, especially if it's referencing like an older screen. So like I said, the formatting's not perfect. You can see we got some spaces in here, but it's a lot easier. If you know you don't want, all of this other gobbledygook, you can also, let me make sure I've got this right. The selection tool, select part of the screen and grab text just from that section. So this is something I do pretty often just to get exactly what I'm looking for. All right, other things that I like to do. Obviously I was going here and testing something. Removing backgrounds from images sometimes is something that can be a bit of a nuisance. I get screen captures of things that have, my favorite is not a white background, but a just not quite white background. That's going to look undesirable in the documentation. And if you use the fill tool up here, you can select and of course fill any part of your image with different colors, but you can also fill with transparency. So if you select that and you say, I don't want this red that I just added, if you click there, it clears it all out and makes it transparent. It's not going to be perfect. So you'll see here, of course, it doesn't get inside the images, but I find it can be pretty handy for just doing some initial cleanup if you've got something that's just a little bit of a problem. It's not great with text. So you can see we've got something that's a little funky here. But sometimes as maybe for old logos, things like that, just trying to make things a little more presentable, I find that that's really useful. All right, let me go back here to our beautiful screen. And I was going to show you how to do the Simplify UI. So this is something that came out, I believe, in Snagit 2020 or 2021. I'd have to double check exactly which version, but it's a new feature that allows you to basically say, hide all of the elements on the screen. The goal here is to make it, instead of having to put, all right, I want to make sure that I'm sending this to Julia and I want to point her to the search box. There's a few ways I could do that. I could put an arrow that says, Julia, you said you didn't know how to search. Here's a search box. This would never happen with Julia, but this has happened with me with other people. Here's the very obvious thing you need to find. I'll put it there with a big arrow, or maybe I will highlight it. Yes, surely you cannot miss it if it is covered in a green box. There's a lot of different ways you could call out that information, but the goal of the simplified UI is to make it look clean and tidy, and also just have a consistent style. So they have this set up. It's just under Simplify. And if you toggle on Auto Simplify, it's not perfect, but it does a pretty good job of blanking out text and other screen elements. And the intent there would be that you delete the sections that are covering the elements you want to reveal. So it lets you kind of focus on specific elements. The other intention is to make it easier to keep screenshots up to date. So if you have them focus primarily on elements that are being documented, that way, if there's other changes, the branding changes, you're not having to go and update those screenshots every time. I haven't been using this feature as long. I've only had it probably for about like 6 months that I've used it at work. But I find it's pretty useful. You can also change the colors. It tries to pick colors from your image that it thinks are complementary. So we've got a not terribly glamorous navy blue, but you could always grab a color from the image if you want to swap that out. It's not perfect. As you can see, this block just sort of decided to cover part of this logo. But generally, I think it does a pretty good job, and you can always adjust if you wanted to tidy things up a little bit. All right, keep an eye on the time because I know Amanda's got stuff to show. Last couple things. Sorry. You can batch convert images in Snagit. This is something I only discovered in the last few months. So this is useful if you need to save a bunch of images to a different file format. Like I've had it where people send me all of the images in JPEGs and I need them in PNGs or something like that, depending on what tool they're going to. If you want to apply like a naming convention to your files so that they all have like the same base name and a numbering scheme. It also will let you apply like an image effect. I won't get too much into that, but that's if you like wanted them all have similar borders or something of that kind, and then choose where you want to save them. So I'm checking my instructions because like I said, this is a relatively new procedure for me. But if you go into Snagit editor and you choose file export, it gives you a batch export wizard, which I used to go through and didn't realize you could add files. So I could select, I'll do like 5 files here from this STC folder. And click open and it loads them all in. And then this is where I mentioned you could choose effects. So you could change if you want to put them all in grayscale or invert the colors. I don't personally have a use case for that, but it will let you do some resizing, some trimming, some edge effects. I'm just going to leave them simple. And then you decide where you want to save them. So this is where you can set where your export is. And then, like I mentioned, the file type. So if I said, okay, I really want all of these to be PNGs, and then I want to be able to control the file name. So right now it's putting the date and time and then a number. But if you click options, you can control the format. So it gives you some options here. Do you want a prefix and an auto number, a system date, a weekday, month name, day, number, and year? That's a heck of an image name. I probably wouldn't go with that one, but it'll give you some options. You can control how many digits are going to be controlled in your auto numbers. You know, one if you just wanted them each to be 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And you can use any of these attributes here, most of which are time-based, but can be useful if you have a whole bunch of images that you just want to have the correct date and time on. So click OK, click Next. It's going to give you a summary of what you're about to do. Then you click Finish, and it's going to convert the files. Now, if I've done everything right, I believe this is the folder I saved them to. Yes, so you can see here, these are the ones I just saved. It kept the original file names and added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 to them and saved them all as PNGs. So I find that's handy when I get images that are sent to me by like engineers or developers that are in a whole bunch of different formats or sizes or other things that need to be standardized. Okay, so I know I've talked a lot about images because that's the main thing I use Snagit for. It also lets you capture video. I typically do this when it's a really simple, small procedure that I want to illustrate. Usually I do it accompanying with text in my documentation, but it can also be handy just for showing someone how to do something. So from Snagit, you can select video. Just a couple of notes. I'm not actually going to walk you through it because I realized if I tell it to record my microphone is being used by Zoom, and I don't know what they will do to each other in a fight for dominance. But you can record your microphone, your system audio if you want to be able to hear any alert noises. I do recommend keeping capture cursor on. At one point I had this toggled off and it made all of my screen recordings very spooky because things just happened on the screen with no cursor causing them. And then same as the other, we've got region or window. You also can have it record your webcam. I personally I never desire this. I never want to have my face included with a quick video that I'm sending to someone or putting in our documentation. But when you click capture, shoot, let me see if it'll let me open the window. Okay, you should be able to see down here the record button that'll start the recording. You can see it's picking up my microphone. So if you did not want audio on there, you can click to mute it. We've got the system audio in there and we could click to turn that off. And then you can just click to start recording. I'm not going to do that because like I said, I don't want to confuse my poor computer about who's using my microphone. But once you take a screen recording, you press the red button to start, you do your recording, you press the button to stop, and then it pops the video into your Snagit editor. So this is one I did earlier, just a quick screen recording of clicking on something on our chapter website. And like I said about everything else with Snagit, it just does what it's supposed to. It records your screen and it saves it as a video. You can do a little bit of editing to the video with these little, I forget, they call them something handles that you can drag along here. The last thing I want to show you real quick is that you can make GIFs or GIFs from your videos. So if there was some part of the procedure you wanted to have a small file for, if you click and drag to select part of it. So if I thought, okay, this is the part of the video that I want to have a very small like looping image of to put into chat or into my documentation, you can just click GIF or GIF and then say use selection. It'll give you a few options about whether you want it to be like a full screen video. I tend to have done reduce file size, which is the reason I would do a GIF to make sure it's going to be small. And then it gives you this dramatic fade to black selection. I don't know if you will want that, but otherwise it will just look like it's continuously looping. And you click create, it'll just pull that section out of your video and then it opens it right up here on your screen. I made a 1 second video. This is very exciting. The cursor moves like 1 inch. So maybe you will make something better with this, but I'm sorry, I've been ignoring the chat. That is my really quick Snagit run through. I want to make sure to have time to get back to Amanda for the things she's going to show you guys, but I am willing to take questions later after we do that. So Amanda, can I hand it back to you?
Alex's presentation gave me the idea to show you kind of what a structured authoring environment might look like. So I'm hoping everybody is seeing Adobe Guides web browser. Yes, go Zoom. This is our sandbox and one of our first attempts at migrating to structured authoring. So this is in practice. There are some really bad practices demonstrated in this, like having these tags of both bold and underline in the paragraph. Again, you would probably want to give this some sort of tag heading, like heading 1 or step something like that, that will put this formatting in your transform. But just to kind of give you a visual of what structured authoring in Adobe Guides looks like. So this is a base concept topic. And as you can see, I have the tags on. You can toggle them off. I second Alex that I like to work with the tags on so that I know where things are and they're not necessarily just floating in space. Because unlike something like Word or even InDesign, without the tags on, it's very hard to know where exactly this ends or begins. You can also switch over to source view, which I kind of like. This would tell you where your errors are if you have stepped outside the lines. You can also, if you enjoy writing lines of code, you are welcome to write and author in this view. Personally, it gives me a little bit of agita to like see all of the detail behind this. And the really cool thing is, so let's assume that our topics are done. The way you sort of assemble documents is in the map view, and in guides it's easy to just drag and drop your topics, and you can, if you're like, oh, this doesn't belong here, you can move it up there. Yes, I want to replace that. And then if you're like, oh, actually I really did want that one in there, you can go back and add it in there. You can again also see the source view on this. And the other thing I like is that these topics are modules, so you can move them into any number of maps, and generating the output is quite easy. If I can find where my map is, there it is. I'm just going to do a PDF, and this is not going to be an exciting PDF because this is our unconfigured environment. So be prepared for the most boringly formatted PDF you have ever seen. And it's usually faster than this, but I'm going to blame Zoom.
As you should.
Okay, I don't know why that actually failed. Welcome to live demos.
We can also blame Zoom if you'd like. I'm okay.
I
with
might
that.
blame Zoom on this one too.
Sure.
It's either Zoom or just utter user error. Also possible. Let's try that again. Come on, PDF, work. Executing. This is looking better. No, all right. I give up. This is why you don't do live demos. Anyway, it should kick out a PDF. This is also why you shouldn't do things in your demo environment that isn't configured for funsies.
That's okay. The PDF is that's kind of winding down. You showed us the glamorous stuff.
This is the fun stuff.
Yeah.
And so what the PDF would look like is all of those topics that look like this are in your PDF in the order that you put them in. You would generate each map when you that use each topic. So if I change this install the shade topic and I have it in 50 maps, I have to generate 50 maps. But the other fun thing is, in theory, when this is configured, you can generate various outputs at the same time for omni-channel publishing. So write once,
That's
publish
nice.
many places. It's really cool. This project is about 2-ish years in the making for us. And I will admit that when I got to this point and saw that everybody kind of did this stuff differently, I called in a professional for help because I realized I knew just enough about tagging and structured authoring to be dangerous and not enough to successfully execute an entire content migration. So if you are thinking about making a move like this, I would be happy to talk to you about it, and happy to give some recommendations of where to go for some help.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you for sharing that as well.
My pleasure.
All right. Here, I'm going to pin us, I think, because we have a few minutes for questions.
Cool.
Does anyone have any questions, or is there anything I missed in the chat that was a question? Besides Alex's question about the picture that I showed ever so fleetingly on my screen, which yes, was of Alex. I didn't want to pick a random folder, so I was like, oh, I've got an FTC folder. So Alex, you were present in there. Nancy has a hand raised.
I have a question for both of you. Obviously, no program is perfect. They all have their pros and cons. Just out of curiosity, what do you both see as like the next program that might possibly replace your programs? Like, say if you've got an FTC student and they're up and coming into the industry and they want to know, okay, Arbortext and InDesign, they're not perfect, but this program, might be, the next big thing that replaces that. Do you guys know of what those programs might be? Like, what's the competition for those?
So in DoD, I would say it's up to the customer, what standard they want to go with. So they've been going a lot more for more electronic type of manuals. Like I said, holding an iPad in the field is needed now. And I don't think anybody's printing our manuals anyway. So I think they're still. But yeah, especially if you're on a plane, you want everything on a screen in front of you. So it's going more towards definitely electronic delivery. I think as far as the next program, I don't think we've scratched the surface of what Arbortext can do and what we're doing right now. So so that there's a lot of unlocked features that they won't let us play with yet, right? So it's a matter of getting that ability into the infrastructure. And we're starting a digital transformation where we're going to be taking our drawings and, like I said, going from one end, from the drawing repository, having the drawing repository being able to spit out a basically an illustrated parks breakdown by itself. So and we would be kind of like the curators of that, making sure it spit out the correct thing. So I think it's just a matter of getting the correct, the next generation style sheets to unlock all those features.
Yeah, I also think it'll be industry based and driven by price point. So I have Adobe, which is at least one of the most expensive products on the market. But I made that decision because of because I already had AEM, the Adobe Experience Manager, as my content management system. And I could not battle with one more Adobe and something else integration. At least they're both Adobe, and I only had to yell at one person. I mean, I've seen a lot of people using Oxygen. So again, if I were mentoring a student, I'd probably tell them to look at Oxygen. And when I've seen that demoed and seeing people actually work in it, I think that is a very powerful tool. I have not actually seen Madcap Flare, so I think I'll join y'all on Thursday to
You should.
Yeah.
It'll be great. To be fair, we've got some strong Flare advocates in our chapter.
Yeah, awesome. I don't know how much of an evangelist for Adobe I am. I chose it out of convenience, which is not a great way to choose a product that's going to be in my life for a long time.
Well, isn't the best product the one you can actually implement and use? Right?
Probably.
So
Probably.
Sounds like you made the right choice.
It's the convenient choice. I also think I think that I don't know if there is a tool to teach students. I think it's more important to teach them foundations of structured authoring. So Craig Baer just did a great STC course on XML, an introduction to XML, and that was great for me because it taught you kind of the hand coding of XML.
Yeah.
So I will never hand code XML again. I did it. I passed the course. But that kind of understanding of how to author in the environment is sort of like teaching somebody how to write and then turning them loose on the variety of word processing softwares that are out there.
Absolutely. I would second that. You need to be able to open up Notepad or Notepad ++ or something to diagnose your code, right? At the end of the day,
Mhm.
you're either seeing the map view or the WYSIWYG view, but at the end of the day, it's code. You need to be able, if something's wrong, you need to, in a pinch, you need to open up Notepad and be able to see, okay, what tag, or is there an extra less than sign somewhere? That happens a lot. It'll throw off context.
I will say, I just went through interviewing for 2 months with a lot of different companies. I've learned so much about how different people do their doc. And something I was struck by is by how many companies are specializing their documentation people. So there's some people who just write. They don't know how the tools work. They don't worry about the publishing. They just write content. And then you have another layer of people who are working more with the editing, checking tags if you're doing structured authoring, and then people who manage the publishing process. I don't think that's everywhere. It certainly varies by industry and by company. But having been a generalist for so long, I was struck by how many of the larger corporations I interviewed with were like, no, everyone does their thing. And that's the thing they do. And that thing for some of them is docs as code, which I won't talk to Nancy about because Nancy probably knows more about that than I do. But that would be the other thing. If I was asked to recommend something to learn, not specifically a tool, but how that whole process works, how to publish through GitHub or something, or a tool of that type, because I see that is something that has really come forward in the past few years in a lot of different industries, not DoD, obviously. I know everything I know about DoD, I've just learned from Alex. But in some of the other, I guess I'll say more nimble industries that change a lot faster. So that was a great question, Nancy.
Michael, you came off mute for a second. Did you want to add to this conversation?
No, just amazed. Just being a generalist and having worked basically as a one writer shop my whole career, that is so alien to me, to be like, you have different people who do different things. I'm like,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, there were a lot of times I'm like, so how do you handle this? They're like, oh, you won't have to worry about that. This is a writer role. We have a person that does that. And I'm like, but I've been that person who does the end to end.
And that's wild to me, as
Mhm.
so I have for various types of jobs or levels of jobs, I have been hiring pretty consistently over the last 2 years.
Mhm.
And to find a good generalist has been a challenge. And then I have found people that like are really good with illustrations. I'm like, that's great, can barely write a sentence, and vice versa. Like, and while I have a team writing for me and authoring, let's call it authoring to be general, we are all generalists. So they will capture their own video, they will take their own pictures, they will, do whatever editing, put them in the documents, write the documents, publish the documents, etc. And I have struggled to find people who can do all of that.
And that might be part of the reason for the shift, is it's easier to train someone, who has core skills to do the thing. Like, this is your task, and not, we want you to understand the whole process. And also how software development works. Because of course, for me, I'm in software development documentation. So they want you to kind of, have insight into what you're doing beyond the immediate stuff.
Well, yeah. And, in manufacturing, we want that too. So I'm having the exact opposite struggle. I get a lot of people who have software skills and can, document the heck out of software, but I'm like, yeah, but now you got to make the thing fit in, and like it's three-dimensional and it works. Like, it does this, explain this, not click this button. And they're like, I don't get it.
I'm one of those people, Amanda. I don't understand this at all. I need someone who knows to tell me, so I understand.
Yeah.
We are a few minutes over. Are you guys good to go just a little bit longer in case we have other questions?
Sure.
Okay. Other questions? General, specific?
I will just say, in case it got missed, I did drop into the chat a link to Adobe's, at least InDesign tutorials, and from there you can kind of navigate your way around if there are other softwares you want to learn about. But I think they're excellent tools, especially for students. They're all free. No, you don't get a certificate or anything at the end of it, but you can get some really good knowledge straight from Adobe on their products.
And the price is right.
And the price is right. And I will fully admit that's how I learned how to do InDesign for this job.
Nothing wrong with that. Well, I saw John gave feedback, great presentations. Amanda, Alex, Bethany, lots of helpful information. So, so John, you're now entirely ready to author a document with proper context in Arbortext, right? I'm sure
Oh,
I
yeah.
am.
Oh yeah, 100% ready now. Just kidding, 5% ready, but that's more than before. So
Right. That's a full 5% more, right? Like I would say I'm in
Yeah.
a similar boat.
yeah, it's pretty significant. I'll take it.
Yeah, thanks for the feedback, John. And Alex, I saw you shared a link in the chat.
Yep. Yeah, it's the ALC pubs website that I was mentioning, where you can download all those FOSSI files and everything. And in the event that you want to open up Arbortext or Notepad or something to play around with it.
If you're feeling adventurous, if you're applying
Yeah,
for a job
exactly.
with Alex's team. Couldn't hurt, huh? To have some background there.
Absolutely.
And there's also a lot of companies out there that'll get you started on specifically a data structured framework, data open toolkit. I think the company is now called Hereto. Used to be Jorsk, used to be Easy Data. If you have been following them for that long, and they might still use some of those logos and names. Have just got some really great free tutorials out there to get you kind of going and to start to understand some of the base lingo.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I realized I didn't mention anything about how to find stuff for Snagit. I should put a link, but I'll just say Google Snagit help and you'll find their help page right away. It's pretty straightforward. They have lots of videos and screenshots. So, or you can send me a message whenever, and I'm happy to talk about Snagit. Or Camtasia, which Nancy and I were talking about in the chat. I did not talk about Camtasia because I love it a little bit less and it's far more expensive. So I guess last call for questions, thoughts, feedback, observations, additions.
And I will mention one more link. To download any of the mill standards, you can go to everyspec.com.
All right. Probably harder to find that by Googling than my Snagit stuff. All right. Well, since we are past time and I'm not seeing any other questions, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up. Thank you to my fellow presenters. I learned a lot from both of you, and I appreciate you making time and sharing
Thank
so
you,
much.
Bethany.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you, Amanda.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. This has been fun.
Yeah, and thank you everyone who attended. Thank you for listening, engaging in the chat, asking questions, and absorbing information like a sponge. Hopefully, some of it you'll be able to retain after this meeting. But if not, you got some great resources to look things up going forward. So just final reminder for Madcap Flare, that is the same time next week. So 6:30 for networking, program at 7 with Scott Deloach. We have, I believe, like triple confirmed with him the date and time, and he's gonna, like I mentioned earlier, he's going to cover an overview and then also get into some tips and tricks for the more advanced Flare users. I'm excited as someone who's not currently using Flare in my new job, but used it lovingly for years. So I think there's going to be a lot to learn there. So do not pay for that meeting. You'll be sent the call details since you have attended here automatically. So I will look forward to seeing some of your smiling faces there as well. So until then, take care.
Sounds
Have a
good.
great
Bye,
Thank you.
folks. Thank you.
Bye,
Night.
Bye, everybody.